Barcelona, the home of a cathedral, FC Barcelona and DJs. Jaime Alguersuari now lives there and has become a successful DJ. But how did he get to this unusual career after becoming the youngest ever F1 driver? 2003, the year where the Black Eyed Peas were #1 in the charts, the year where The Lord of the Rings and Finding Nemo were top of the box office, the year that Olivia Rodrigo and Greta Thunberg were born. It was also the year that Saddam Hussein was captured. It was also the year Jaime Alguersuari started karting at the age of 8 in his native Spain. He had great success at it, winning the Spanish Championship and the Copa Campeones Trophy Junior twice in a field which contained other future F1 drivers such as Roberto Merhi and Will Stevens. He regularly competed against strong future F1 drivers such as Jules Bianchi, Charles Pic, Marcus Ericsson, Roberto Merhi and Will Stevens. So overall, a very impressive karting record. Then eventually in 2005, Jaime made the step up to single-seaters, but like 73% of the world's population at this point, he received a phone call at the end of that year from a man who invented the definition of impatience in the Oxford Dictionary. A man who is ruthless and harsh as a saltwater crocodile at the sight of a wild crab. A man who controls the fate of dozens of drivers each year. That man is none other than Dr. Helmut Marko. So he called Jaime and said, "Yeah man, you're pretty quick. Come to this test if you're all that." And so Jaime did. Alguersuari turned up along with 50 other drivers and described this event to be like MasterChef, which is a fair comparison as Jaime certainly cooked. He was quickest out of everyone and impressed Marko so much that he said, quote unquote, "Wowzers, get this man a contract." Jaime then spent the following year in 2006 racing in 3 different racing series, beating Roberto Merhi again to the Formula Renault 2.0 Italia Winter Series, but then struggling a little in the Euro Cup Formula Renault 2.0 Series and Formula Renault 2.0 Italia, finishing 12th and 10th respectively with just 1 podium across both series. He also finished behind his future teammate Sebastian Buemi in the standings. This is understandable though, as he was just a mere little rookie that year. However, Alguersuari would return to these series for 07. He would go on to finish 5th in the Euro Cup with 2 podiums, behind teammate and champion of that year Brendan Hartley, who was also in the Red Bull Junior Academy and fighting for that F1 seat, which isn't what Jaime had hoped for. However, in Italian Formula Renault, he beat Hartley this time. Fantastic! Alguersuari had at least beat his fellow Red Bull Junior in different race series. However, the problem was that he finished as runner-up with 3 wins and 4 further podiums to another Red Bull Junior and teammate Mika Maki. By the way, these fields are pretty competitive in those. They also had previously mentioned Jules Bianchi, Charles Pic and Roberto Merhi, as well as Daniel Ricciardo competing in them, along with Oliver Turvey, Fabio Lima and Oliver Oakes, who is actually the guy who currently owns well-known feeder series team High Tech GP. So overall, 2007 was a very good year for Alguersuari as a rookie. 2008, the year of the global financial crisis. Stock prices were down, but Alguersuari was up. He went into this year as one of the favourites for the British Formula 3 international title, joining esteemed racing team Carlin alongside Hartley, Turvey and Sam Abbey. He would also be racing against Romain Grosjean's worst nightmare, Marcus Ericsson, the best Max to race in Formula 1 in the past 10 years, Max Chilton, and the Mexican Defence Minister, Sergio Perez. Tough competition for Jaime to say the least. Bear in mind, although this series doesn't sound like anything important in today's world, back in 2008 it was the real deal and meant a lot. Jaime struggled a bit at first, picking up just the 1 win and no further podiums in the first 6 races, whilst Perez picked up 3 wins and a 2nd place in that time. Not ideal for the Spaniard. However, Jaime's form majorly picked up, which propelled him towards winning the whole goddamn thing, thanks to winning the final 3 races of the season. In doing this, Alguersuari became the youngest title winner in championship history at the grand age of 18 years old. Hartley beat him. For 2009, Alguersuari stepped up to the well-renowned Formula Renault 3.5 series. Yes, now I know the title of this series has the dreaded R word in it, but this racing series was also the real deal back then. This grid had some mega talent in it, including many drivers that Alguersuari had already faced many times, such as Charles Pic, Oliver Turvey, and Brendan Hartley, and also Nigel Mansell's son, Greg Mansell, who is actually now a professional cyclist. Anyway, there were many other strong drivers who made cameo appearances, such as Daniel Ricciardo, Max Chilton, Jules Bianchi, and current Formula E driver Eduardo Mortara. Jaime had a decent start to the season, picking up a podium in France by the end of July, but on the other hand, his teammate Oliver Turvey had picked up 1 win and 3 further podiums by that point. However, on the other side of the motor racing, a certain French man was really testing the patience of a one Dr. Helmut Marko. Sebastien Bourdais had been struggling to pick up results in a poor Toro Rosso in 2009. Yeah, you've all seen this script 1,000 times before. So death, taxes, and a Red Bull team replacing their drivers mid-season, Jaime Alguersuari replaced the fired Sebastien Bourdais in that Toro Rosso seat. Just a quick rundown on all the Red Bull mid-season driver changes to date. We had Robert Dornbos replacing Christian Klein in 2006 at Red Bull, Sebastian Vettel replaced Scott Speed in 2007 at Toro Rosso, Verstappen replaced Kvyat at Red Bull in 2016, Sainz and Kvyat replaced by Gasly and Hartley in 2017, Albon replaced Gasly in 2019, De Vries was replaced by Ricciardo, who was then replaced by Lawson at AlphaTauri in 2023, and they even tried to replace Hartley halfway through in 2018, but ended sticking it out with him. So, Alguersuari stepped into Toro Rosso at Hungary in the 10th round of the Formula 1 Championship that year. At 19 years old, he became the first Spanish teenager to follow in the footsteps of Fernando Alonso and the youngest ever F1 driver. He said his aim for 2009 was just to finish the races, as he'd never actually driven a Formula 1 car before, which sounds mind-blowing today as many young drivers get to take part in free practice sessions and post-season young driver tests, and even private tests too. Toro Rosso were heavily criticised for this by many F1 drivers at the time, including Felipe Massa, who said he can burn himself very quickly. Nevertheless, Alguersuari ignored the haters, jumped in the car, and finished the race ahead of his teammate Sebastian Buemi on debut. Now time for the rest of the season, where Jaime just had to get to grips with the car and put himself in contention for a 2010 Toro Rosso seat. Anyway, let's not get sidetracked about Formula 1 and talk about the real deal, Formula Renault 3.5. You'd think that Jaime would not take part in this series anymore due to his F1 commitments. Wrong! He still took part in the remaining races that year, as they did not actually clash at all with the F1 calendar. This probably did not help much with trying to learn the F1 car, but he still did it. Jaime had a strong finish to the year, ending up with a win and a podium, which helped him finish P6 in the standings as a rookie, but behind teammate Oliver Turvey. But going back to the remainder of the F1 season, Alguersuari did not score many points that season. In fact, he scored none, but did get close in Japan before he crashed out whilst chasing Nico Rosberg for points. He ended up 24th in the standings. However, this was all enough for Toro Rosso to retain Jaime Alguersuari for 2010 with Sebastian Buemi. This was a big year for Jaime, as it was his first full year in F1. Well, you can't always be so sure with that with Helmut Marko. He started off the year really well with a first ever points finish in Malaysia with a P9. In doing so, he became the second youngest ever points scorer behind Sebastian Vettel. Not a bad accomplishment for the young Spaniards to be up there with that name. He then followed that up with a 10th place finish at his home Grand Prix a few weeks later. However, he would only manage one more points finish that year, and that was in the season finale at Abu Dhabi, coming home in 9th place. He did manage 5 P11s that season, so on another day, he could have had a lot more points than he did that year. He did finish below his teammate Buemi in 19th that year, by only 3 points, but overall, you can say this was a great year for Alguersuari. He was retained again with Buemi for 2011, so surely it was only going to get better from next year, right? Jaime went into 2011 a much better driver than before. He was quickly learning all the time, and this showed. With 7 points finishes, this helped him achieve P14 in the standings, 1 place ahead of Buemi, but a healthy 11 points clear. He achieved a career best P7 at Monza, which is mightily impressive in a Toro Rosso. The only step up from this was up, right? With Mark Webber in the twilight years of his career, surely Red Bull would make a decision on his seat in the next few years, and Alguersuari was certainly looking set on taking that seat, from his performances and strong relationships within the Red Bull family. Wrong. Toro Rosso decided to let go of both Buemi and Alguersuari for 2012 and replace him with Jean-Eric Vergne and Daniel Ricciardo. How the hell did this happen? I can't give you an answer for that, but Jaime reckons it was to do with commercial and political things and not results. This is so devastating for a driver who looked to have it all set for the future. So who was he going to drive for in 2012? No one. He turned down an HRT seat. I mean, can you blame him? That car was as slow as a hippo with lollipops for legs. The problem is, he also turned down a Lotus seat for 2012, and that car was flipping fast on its day that year. Jaime believed he could have made it to Red Bull, and thought Marco believed in him too, but just imagine what Alguersuari could have achieved in F1 if he'd only accepted that Lotus contract. So 2012, what did Jaime Alguersuari do that year? Not much, to be honest. He became a Pirelli test driver for 2012 and 2013, which is about as thrilling as watching a game of golf. He also spent these years doing punditry work. In 2013, he said he would not be trying to return to Formula 1. 1 year later, in March 2014, he announced he would be racing for Virgin Racing with Sam Bird in the first ever Formula E season. He very much struggled during this campaign compared to his teammate. Alguersuari ended up P13, while Sam Bird finished P5 with 2 wins. Later that year, in October 2015, Alguersuari officially retired from motorsport, aged only 25, saying he had fallen out of love with this girlfriend. I suppose that's one way to put it. A driver tipped for the top in motorsport, who achieved a lot at a young age. But perhaps Felipe Massa was correct when he said he can burn himself very quickly. That's if he was referring to him burning out, of course. But how did this all happen like that? You very rarely see this happen to racing drivers these days. Well, Jaime had picked up a rather common hobby for racing drivers. He liked DJing. Like thousands of people each year, he would go to Ibiza every summer when he was younger. This is where his passion for that kind of music began. He actually released his first record around 2009-2010 according to him. Unfortunately back then, it never made it big enough to rival Bruno Mars and Rihanna. But in 2011, his debut album did top the iTunes album chart. Max Verstappen could never. He's released a couple more albums since then under the name Squire. Going through his socials, he regularly DJs in clubs in Spain. Who knows, maybe a Jaime Alguersuari and Way Lineker collab is on the cards in the future. Currently, he seems to be enjoying his life in a different career path, which is what we all want to see at the end of the day. So thanks for watching, and see you later.